Okay, so we're basically done the course. We covered all the material. So what I want to do with the remaining three lectures is today I'm going to cover, we're just going to do a few more examples of radical chemistry, really nail down the difference between initiation and pre-activation, and really emphasize that products come from propagation. We're going to do another, I don't have it in here, I'll have to add that. Another example of polymerization. Then we're going to cover a few topics again, just to re-emphasize some stuff from the SN1E1, SN2E2. And then what I hope to do with the remaining couple of lectures is kind of bring everything together and tie everything together. So I've been thinking the other thing I want to make an announcement about. People still keep crawling in. We're getting near the end of the term. It's getting quiet. Is final exam format. So what is going to be done with this is I've heard a few students suggest that Blackboard is not the most reliable tool out there, and I am really, really sympathetic to that. And I'm trying to think how we can get these exams out to everybody. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to use the Mobius platform to administer the exam. The questions are not going to be like the questions you've done so far in the Mobius. They're going to be much more like my assignment questions, except easier. And the goal is that what you'll have to do is upload pictures to the Mobius, and that'll be your answer. And so you can use that with a cell phone. It's relatively straightforward to do. Because of that, I'm going to extend out the time of the exam. So the exam will you will be given essentially 4 hours to do a 3 hour exam. And the idea is that you're getting an hour to upload your answers into it. And so it just makes sure that you have your full answer all written out and everything, and make sure that you're going to take some time because you're going to have to take pictures of your different questions, and you're going to have to transfer them over to your computer and upload them. You will be able to go back during the exam, so you will be able to go through the entire exam. Um, and what you're going to be, so you can scroll through, scroll back. The problem is you can't see more than one question at once. And I'm really sorry about that. I've played with Mobius. I've tried to make this work. I can't show you more than one question at once. That's not because I'm trying to not do that. It's just the way Mobius works on the system. But you'll be able to scroll through all of them. I'm getting a lot of questions, and they're good questions. So I'm going to open up my chat window. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with Adriana's comment, he said practice type assignment on Mobius so we can try uploading for the actual final. Absolutely, I am going to do that. It's going to be one question per page. What time will be at? It's at 7 p.m. because that's when the exam starts. So it goes from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time. You can skip questions and go back, so you can quickly skim through all the questions of the exam and then go back to them. Um, I think there is going to be the big submit button at the bottom too. Don't hit the big submit button. I am going to be basically sitting there live on it, um, to respond to any questions anyone has. You actually upload the pictures of your answers to the Mobius questions. So there's not we haven't used this yet, but one of the things you can do is you can when you're answering a Mobius question, you can browse your computer and upload a file, and that's what we're going to do. Is you're going to upload a JPEG. Um, that's an interesting question, Andrew. So Andrew asked, can it start an hour early? So can we start at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m.? So we run from 6 to 10. I'm going to suggest that. That is a really good idea, and I like that a lot more than writing this thing to 11. Don't care if it's so Sharon, it could either be a picture or a PDF. I don't care. What we're going to do, um, okay, I'm just going to, I'm getting a lot of how early can we start? I can't start earlier than 5:30 because there are exams that run from 2:30 to 5:30, and I'm sure somebody in this class starts at 5:30, and I want to give them at least half an hour. So it will be 6 p.m. I'm gonna try. I'll have to get a vote from the class, and if anyone sends me a comment basically saying no, I don't want to move it, I can't because the exam is a formal document, and I'm not allowed moving things. But I think moving it to 6 makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of you guys would like to start earlier. Yes, you're gonna have to submit a picture of each question individually, so you can write it out on a page, snap a picture, and do that. That's why I want to give you lots of extra time to upload those. Um, Andrew, I can't. So Andrew asking, can I set a time limit so whenever you start, get 4 hours from there? No, because um, we're gonna have a lot of different versions of the exam, but not an infinite number, and so I need people to be writing this simultaneously. I'm sorry, it's for the integrity of the exam. How many questions? I'm not sure yet, Sharon. Um, so the format on this, it's going to be mostly short answer. Short answer. I might have some simple multiple choice. And by simple multiple choice, I mean simple multiple choice. The ones that I've been issuing on the Mobius assignments, I would consider complex multiple choice, where you have to do many, many different things to analyze the answer. That's evaluating too many things for 1 mark. That puts too much weight on 1 mark. So there will likely be a short section of multiple choice on the order of 10 multiple choice questions, maybe 20. That will be 20-second multiple choice questions. You either know it or you don't. And if you don't know it, you could look it up. But if you're looking it up, you're taking your time. Um, if you accidentally hit submit on the final instead of next, you email me immediately. I'm going to be sitting on my email. Actually, what I'll probably do is I'll probably have this Zoom channel open um, for anyone who needs that. I'd say JFR is probably comparable to the practice exam on Blackboard. Nikel, no, you can't. And Kevin had the same question. Can we submit a picture for all the questions at the end? You can. You have to upload them individually. The couple of reasons for that. Um, okay. One. So I'm going to give 4 hours for this exam. It's going to be written for a 3 hour exam. Um, Time pressure is definitely part of it. So you could probably easily spend 4 hours on it if you take your time and you think and you haven't really thought about any of this stuff and it's all new to you. Yeah, it can take some time. But I'm going to give you 4 hours for the exam to upload all your answers. I'm basically giving you 1 hour there to photograph and upload individual files. Let's say there were 15 questions, 20 questions. That, short, long answer questions where you're writing out a whole page or 2 pages worth of stuff. Um, I can't, I can't think how that could take you more than 20 minutes to upload 15 questions. Snap some pictures, upload some files. Um, Sorry, extra time people can't start earlier. The start time is the earliest that it has to be the start time. You can go later, but you can't start earlier because rules. I'm really sorry. I can bend the rules, but if I break them and any of you complain, I'm in trouble. And so I want to make sure we are following the regulations of the university, but being as flexible as possible. Um, yes, each question will be a separate file, and you'll. Is there a Mobius? I don't know. I have no idea if there's a Mobius iPhone app. After uploading a picture, can we go back and change it? Yes. Until you hit submit, you can change your answer. Um, Yeah, I would not do the exam on a phone. That sounds like a really bad. But I understand where somebody's saying, "Hey, I'd open this in Mobius on my phone. I'd have this in Mobius on my computer. I take pictures of it on my phone and upload directly to my phone because the images are right there and it cuts my time." I get that and I understand that. I think that's why I'm giving extra time for you to make sure that you're organizing all of this. No, you will be able to go back. You will go back. You'll be able to go back as many times as you like, or forward and back. It'll be on Mobius. The strength of using Mobius for this is that any way that I can get you. So here's my problem, and I imagine all of you. Yeah, exactly. And you can select all of them and email them all at once to yourself. Yeah, whatever. My problem is that if I give one version of the exam to the entire class, I'm basically begging you guys to cheat. And a lot of you would never think of it. Some of you would be very tempted to, probably not amongst the 81 people who are in this class right now, but anyone who's watching this. Some of you might be very tempted to, and some of you who would never think about cheating in an in-class exam might be tempted to here. So I'm going to remove the temptation by massively randomizing this. There's going to probably be 10 versions of each question. Everyone's going to be assigned a random version of that question, so everyone's going to have a completely unique exam. Might be more than 10 versions. I'm going to aim for like 20 versions of every question. So if I try and compile all those and get those sent out to you using something like Blackboard, it's incredibly challenging to do that so the exams all arrive to all of you at the same time. Mobius is kind of built for this. So I think Mobius is the right platform to work on this. And I know that some of my colleagues have had problems with Blackboard deciding to crash when a lot of people are trying to upload stuff all at the same time, which is exactly what will happen during this exam. And Blackboard crashing when you're trying to upload a final exam sounds like the worst thing ever. And so I really prefer not to do it. But you know what? We're done the material, so let's just answer some questions for a bit. We'll come back to whatever we're doing. Okay, so Janik, I see your question. I'm just going to make sure that I've covered most of the key questions for people about the exam. What's out of approximately? I don't know yet. I have no idea. It's probably pretty similar to the other one, but like, what's a mark? It's kind of arbitrary. Um, about how many questions? Somewhere between 10 and 20 short answer questions, and then maybe another 20 multiple choice. I'm not sure yet. In 3 hours, Nicole. The last hour is only for uploading. We're gonna trial it out, and you know what? The thing is, if I write too many questions, and my trial test takers basically tell me to ozonolysis chapter 4. I'm getting a lot of questions about ozonolysis, or maybe it's just Nulia coming back with the ozonolysis question again and again and again. Let me see. I'm opening my book and I'm going to the index because there's index. It's not download and print. So Tahira, because it's on Mobius, you can't really print off Mobius. So you're going to get the question on the screen. You can sort of copy it onto the paper in front of you, or just start answering it and upload it. So you kind of have the question on the screen in front of you. You have paper in front of you. You need to be able to take a picture and photograph that and upload that. Ozonolysis is page 1036. Chapter 20. 20.3.6.1. They give it a quarter of a page, or half a page. Yeah, each question you need to take a picture of and upload it. Why is exam paper print and then upload not being done? I'm not sure I quite understand it, Andrew. Yes, you can upload a PDF. I don't care. It's going to accept basically TIFF, PDFs, JPEGs, I'll let it accept GIFs and MP4s, and I'll just let it accept absolutely everything. Um, I think so, Andrew. I think the main reason why it's not going to be like that is we can't. I can't deliver it. So the here I understand. I can't deliver the exams to everybody in a printable format where they're randomized and make sure they all arrive in everyone's inbox at the right time so you can start the exam. You just upload the picture. You write the picture, you take a picture, you upload, use the file upload. I could do all multiple choice, but you don't want me to do that. You want part marks. Believe me, you want part marks. So what I'm gonna do is, yeah, the multiple choice questions you do right on Mobius, of course. Yes, the answer. So you know how you're gonna upload to Mobius. Everything's gonna be done on Mobius. I agree, Mohammed. Um, so I'm seeing a lot of people saying, "Can I upload this as a single PDF file instead of uploading the individual photos?" So the one thing I can think that could work on that is if oh, and then here's my challenge: is I end up making this really tricky. So the one thing that I'd be willing to kind of accept is kind of let's say start at 6. So you got it's a 3-hour exam. So you take the photos, you save them all, convert them into a PDF, send that in. So like 9:15 instead of 10 o'clock, but 9:15 I get the full version of your full exam. I'd accept that, and then I think what we would have is somebody, but then I would probably need you the next morning to manually insert each of them into the system and upload it. So they'll see what version you, because you're gonna. So Nicole asked, "Do we need to copy the question on paper? Will people marking see what version of the test we get?" You're gonna upload the picture to Mobius. I know, Kevin. I get it. I completely get it. I, I I I don't think the individual pictures are that hard. We're gonna try this out. Um, I do this all the time. It takes a few minutes, a minute or so per question. I'm gonna give you 60 minutes for that. But Nicole, everyone's going to see what question you get. You're not going to need to rewrite the question down because you're going to upload it to that question. So your answer is associated with the question. So the marker will see the question and they'll see your answer directly underneath it, and so they'll get that whole file. Andrew said uploading can take a while depending on internet speed. A 200 kilobyte picture shouldn't take very long. I don't think anyone's internet speed is really going to be a problem. If anybody is in Northern Ontario on a 26 kilobyte per second modem, please let me know. Yeah, there's going to be practice. I'm going to make sure I post a practice. Yes, I will post a practice so you'll be able to try it out. Yes. No, each question has its own uploading slot. So basically, you know where you've answered the question so far. You've had to like do a pull down menu or sort things or something else. All it's going to have there is a link you click and it says find the file to upload. And then it associates the file with that. Uh, Yes, Fabian, you can leave your exam and come back later if you like. But you only have 4 hours. So if you want to spend 3 of those hours drinking cocktails at a pool, socially distanced, of course, that and start like the exam for the first half hour, then leave and then come back, you're very welcome to do that. Yes, you're allowed to go back. You can scroll back and forwards through the exam. Um, So this is Brendan. This is where I think we might be okay if you do make that mistake because the marker will have access to both your entire exam as a whole and to all your individual and to the individual questions. So they'll be going through the questions and they'll go, "Well, this is the wrong answer to this question." Then they can check to see if you've made that mistake of uploading the wrong answer to the wrong question on your exam. You are going to be able to unattach the photo. You'll be able to delete the photo and re-upload. I'm really sorry for everybody who is in the Middle East and is writing this exam. But that's a problem with exams. I got no solution to that. We are, the University of Windsor has decreed that this is a 7 p.m. exam, and it is 7 p.m. Eastern time because we're here. O minus is the stronger base, Nulia. Okay. Yes, you still have December 10th for the SciComm. That hasn't changed. And I just want to re-highlight for anybody. This is going to be one of those times I am going to post the entire chat to everybody. Um, Anyone who is working with a team on the SciComm with other students in the class, if the team is more than one person, so if it's a team, I need to pre-approve your idea. Because what I don't want is a team of 7 people providing a single infographic that is comparable in effort to something that one person did. If it's something more complicated, that's fine. But the entire idea here is to make sure that this is fair. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm. Any of you who are out of time zone, um, and what you'd rather prefer is to decline the exam. There is a makeup, so I would consider that a strong enough reason to decline the exam and write during the makeup time period. I consider it equivalent to being sick. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the general thing. I will accept that just because I do think it is a I do think this is a hardship. And I'm definitely not my smartest at 4 a.m. But you'll probably just have to rearrange your sleep pattern. You probably already have rearranged your sleep pattern if you're taking classes in North America, um, and are choosing to do these live. Yeah, amen. This is so, Bavian. The problem is that I can't get the PDFs to people. Um, the exam's on the 12th. Oh, SciComm 12th. You guys have just moved the because you decided to move the exam, I guess. We have moved the due date of the SciComm to 6 p.m. on the 12th, 6 p.m. Eastern. So it's due before your exam. Screw it, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can do it with the exam. Have the exam in one window and work on your SciComm in the other. I don't care. Yeah, you could do a TikTok while doing the exam. Just make sure you don't post the TikTok until the exam is over. But your SciComm does need to be about organic chemistry, and the meta about writing the exam of organic chemistry isn't sufficient. When will you know the marks for the SciComm? There's going to be some poor GA who's going. It's on both. Well, okay. So the content gets you the initial 5%. Um, if you don't, if you do not phone it in, you should get 5%. You should get the 5%. And that's just, have you provided some level of research, some level of insight, some level of discussion of organic chemistry. Is it clear that you looked at something beyond the scope of the course, but you stayed within the realm of organic chemistry? If you do a TikTok about how much you love soccer and there's absolutely no organic chemistry in there, you will not get the grade. So it does need to be on organic chemistry. The bonus 5%, I think we'll know in early January. So there is going to be a GA who's going to go through all these, and they're going to pick sort of what they think are the 40 or 50 most interesting ones. And they're going to, it'll give some time for them to blow up if something blows up. But it isn't a popularity contest. Kind of is, but it isn't fully a popularity contest. But if it does blow up, then you got a future career as a TikTok star or whatever. I don't know if there's any money in it. Yeah, this is 5% absolute. Might be a bit generous. Or it's up to 5% absolute. No, I don't want to be in anyone's TikTok. Nice try. It's more just, I just don't have the time. You're welcome to use any of this lecture shit that I do. You're welcome to use any of that if it fits what you're doing. I think this is actually a more useful use of our first half hour. Oh, I'd murder to have a TikTok of the ninjas slicing things. I'd so use that so much. I do like the ninja costume joke. That was what I was laughing about, not the proton transfer thing. I was ignoring Andrew's comment because I know he knows better. Depending who it's coming from, I'd answer the question. Okay. I it's kind of the 5% is, did you do something that is organic chemistry related, and is it relevant? It kind of is the content there, so you should be able to get. I'm hoping that 95% of the class gets 5%, gets five out of 5 on that. The additional up to 5% is going to be awarded based on how much effort different people have put in, and how creative and awesome it is. Because for some of you, you're putting in if you spend about 5 hours on this, you should get your 5%. If you spend an hour on it, you might not, because we might look at that and go, yeah, a stick man holding a molecule saying, ooh, look at molecule, is not going to get you your full 5%. It's completely legal for you to do that, Jinek. But you would probably need to, but just rolling up a joint would not be high on the SciComm thing. It would be high on the high thing, but not necessarily on the SciComm thing. So there would need to be more component to that. Is there a bonus question on the exam? No. So the way mostly because the total of the exam is, you know what? Actually, that is going to be the bonus question. Mohammed, that is going to be a bonus question. Yeah. Um, the Just to reward all those people who've gotten through this point in watching the videos or actually coming to class. Either way, the um, the total of the exam is kind of a raw score. I see what the class does. If I end up writing an exam where the vast, like, because we're going to do time pressure on this a little bit, and it's open book. This is a new experience for me. I have never written an introductory course open book exam. I've written lots at a more senior level, but never at sort of a second year level. And so it either might be too easy or too hard. And if it's too hard, the exam might be out of 130, and suddenly the exam's out of 100 instead of 130. And suddenly everyone gets 30 bonus marks. So there's often not really a bonus question. Actually, you know what? The lectorial questions are not bad ideas for what the short answers are. The assignment questions are probably actually more similar to what the questions are going to be like. Especially the ones which kind of provide the reagents for this and show a mechanism with that. That's pretty typical, or explain why this happens. I don't curve because curving is something very specific. Curving means, and I've tried it before. I've tried to make it so I know it's going around. People are talking about that. Um, Curving means I try and fit the grades to a Gaussian distribution, and then I move that Gaussian distribution to a new center point. First of all, organic chemistry marks are never a Gaussian distribution. They're not monophase. They don't have one hump. They only have two humps, and so curving doesn't really work. And secondly, what it tends to do is everyone kind of likes the idea of curving until their marks go down. And so no one's mark goes down with the way I do this. So it's not really a curve. It's more of an adjustment of what the final is. Um, Nothing stuff that is covered in the lab tutorials but is not covered, or lab quizzes but is not covered in my assignments or my course, are not going to be on the exam. So nothing about oxidation numbers because we didn't discuss that. I don't think we're starting this lecture. I want to do some more examples. And so maybe I'll start with those and we'll see how far we get in the next 20 minutes, and we'll do some more in the next couple of classes. But I think this is we have clarified most of the questions. I'm just going to say this is almost like a frequently asked question YouTube video. Yes. So Michaela asked the really important question. So if we do better on a final than on a Mobius section, it completely takes over that older mark? Absolutely. Tuesday, Sharon, I think. I think Monday is our last class. Does not affect your lab marks. Your lab marks stand on their own. This does not affect the lab marks in any way. Yes, if you do better on Mobius, it does not replace your final exam. It's a nice try. Yes, that's exactly where I'm starting today. So Victoria is transitioning us into the course material, and so those of you who are going like, can we start the damn course already, have one. So this is, yes, Mohammed, I actually think I have one later. Okay, Rose has asked a really good question, which came up. I'm gonna make a written announcement on this. I think Andrew, or no, it wasn't Andrew. Somebody kindly asked me to put an assignment up on carbonyl chemistry. I think I said I would do it. I didn't do it. So because I didn't do it, and because there's no practice assignments on carbonyl chemistry, the section on carbonyl chemistry will not be evaluated on the exam. So that component of the course is not going to have questions about it on the exam. Okay. No carbonyl chemistry. We are going to have Grignard reactions because I think there's some examples of that. I think there's some examples of alkyne chemistry, but we did not. We just didn't end up. You didn't end up getting practice. Um, I'm not so, and I'm not going to post the answers to the practice final. Um, and you already finished the one you posted. You know what? I I don't think I have answers to the practice final. I've got them written down somewhere, but I'll never find them. Um, okay. So let's do this. So one of the questions that I got, and it was a really in office hours this morning, was I don't understand the difference between pre-activation and initiation, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It's tough. So make radical not involved in propagation. Um, all questions, anything like the assignments, are fair game. I will not be. You will. I will not. If I do this right, you will not find any of the assignment questions on the exam. Because if I did that, then and I randomly select things, then whoever happens to randomly get a question, which is which is the assignment question, will then be able to, and who's memorized all the assignment questions will have an advantage, and that's not fair. Yeah, we'll do some proton transfer stuff. I saw a question on that. We're basically going to be doing examples for the next three classes. And what I really want to do is, if anyone's kind of thinking about something they specifically want me to cover, please, like something that's like, okay, I really want to see this again. Send me an email ahead of class, hopefully at least an hour ahead of class, and I'll be able to try and integrate something in. Not involved. This is what happens. Well, you know what? I'm going to blame my poor handwriting on trying to read the chat window instead of actually looking at what I'm doing. But that's a lie. I just suck at this. Um, Kevin, I see your question. I like it. What I might do is I might hand over the Zoom window to some of the GAs to do stuff. I'm a little reticent to get too involved in doing too much of that right before an exam, especially when I've started to write the questions. I need to be very careful with how I answer questions once I start writing the exam. I think we fixed all the marking errors on the second Mobius assignment. That's been remarked. So you would have gotten your correct mark now. That's been updated. I didn't get my reply to my email for Mobius. I don't understand, Tahira. Oh, you emailed me about Mobius and I didn't answer you? Was it about a question that was marked? Okay, I'll check that and I'll get back to you. I'm just gonna make a note. Um, drop by my office hours maybe then. I know, Tahira, that's harder for you. Well, actually, you're in the middle of the day. Maybe you could do that. Yes. If I haven't answered your emails, come by my office hours. Office hours are all day next week, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we are going to do this one example, and then we're going to call it a day. Adriana, I was not able to allocate marks for that. I wasn't able to correct that. So I think if that's an issue and we discuss that and that would be better than your final mark, then I'll reevaluate that. Okay, Bavian, I see your point. I think one of the challenges I've got is just the multiple different versions of the exam. And the nice thing about Mobius is I can distribute multiple different versions of the exam quite easily. So I think it's going to be a little less logistically a nightmare to make sure that everyone gets an exam if I use Mobius. I think that's more my thing right now on this. So I'm glad you didn't see any issues with Blackboard. I've heard a couple people whine about Blackboard, so I'm glad that wasn't a problem for you. Oxymercuration is under the alkene chemistry. You'd have to look it up in the book. Anyways, I'm going to answer this question because that's all the time we're going to have. So I'm stopping answering questions in the chat. Nobody has questions. The last question I'm answering. I am now closing the chat, so I don't have to pay any attention to any of you because that's the power I've got vested in me by the internet. So in pre-activation, yeah, I do actually see that, but I'm not paying attention to it. In pre-activation, we're making radicals that are not involved in propagation. And you're going to make 2 radicals from 0 radicals. So somebody pointed this out in the chat there before as we were starting to think about not getting distracted. There's enough heat in there. Oxygen-oxygen bonds are quite weak. We've been talking a lot about this with those analysis. These are quite weak. The problem with those analysis is that things blow up if you heat them up because of all those oxygen-oxygen bonds. So it's unsurprising, hopefully, that we homolyze, breaks the same way, this oxygen-oxygen single bond. Well, what do we get? Well, we get 2 times this guy. Now, this is where these things, so phenyl, if you remember right, is a benzene ring. I'm actually going to draw out the benzene ring here. This is benzoyl peroxide. Yeah, no worries. That's a good question. Sometimes I write benzoyl peroxide. Yes, it is an acne killer. So this is going to break down even further. Why does it do that? Well, if you remember that talk about nitrogen gas and stuff wanting to become gas, you just make carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is a really good gas. And then we get a phenyl radical. Okay, and there's 2 of these, right? So it's 2 times this, 2 times that. And what drives this reaction forward, what makes it so favorable to happen, is the generation of the carbon dioxide. This is so pre-activation, make a radical not involved in propagation. Initiation, make a radical involved in propagation. Now, these can be the same thing. There isn't always necessarily a pre-activation. But it all depends if the radical that you make, I can never spell propagation. I can remember it's an A or an O there first. I don't really care. It depends if the first radical you make is involved in the propagation steps. So if we think about what we've got, we've just made a phenyl radical. Yeah, it means it evaporates. I just draw that automatically. You could write gas evaporates. And you don't need to write that. That's completely unnecessary. It's just my mind does that, and I don't know. I learned from somebody who did it that way, and I went, hey, that's kind of a good way to do it. And so I kept doing it. So this looks around for the weakest bond in solution. Now, there's not very much benzoyl peroxide present. There's normally only like a tiny percentage. And the weakest bond in solution is always these halogen bonds, because halogen radicals don't suck as much as every other radical out there. And so this radical is going to go and steal a hydrogen. Now we made a bromine radical. This bromine radical is going to be involved in propagation. So propagation is the step where the products are made. One radical becomes one radical, which we also happen to see in this initiation thing here. But the thing about propagation is it goes around in circles. Initiation happens once. So we have a bromine radical. Again, most of the time it's going to react with another equivalent of HBr, and it's going to grab an H, and then you're going to have HBr and a bromine radical on the left side of the arrow, and HBr and a bromine radical on the right side of the arrow, and who cares that that happened? But occasionally it's going to react with the double bond. And we make the most stable radical. So what I want to draw your attention to here is this is exactly the same logic we saw for the Markovnikov addition of HBr. We generated the most stable carbocation. Now we're generating the most stable radical. And the difference between adding HBr, just in the dark, no radicals, normal, is that you add the H first, and you generate the most stable carbocation. Now you're adding the bromine first, and you're generating the most stable radical. But where that radical is, as we talked about, tertiary radicals are better than primary radicals. And so that's why we're putting a radical on a tertiary site. Now we have this radical that we just made. Sorry, I'm running out of space at the bottom of the page. It breaks the weakest bond, which is, as always, HBr. And we've regenerated our bromine radical, which can then go back and do the first step of that propagation again. And so our product of this reaction is whatever's coming out of these propagation steps and isn't a radical. And that's, of course, this thing right here is our product. And notice what we've done is the anti-Markovnikov addition of HBr. Then if we do the termination steps, we combine the radicals in every way we can. So we've got two radicals. We're ignoring the phenyl radical. There's very, very little of it. It's a radical activator. Normally I'll write something like 1% or something up here, just saying, hey, there's very little of this benzoyl peroxide. Don't worry about it. It's often far less than 1%. It's often kind of on the order of 0.001%. There's a tiny amount of it. So the benzoyl peroxide is not involved in your products. There is no stereochemistry in the radical chemistry. You get racemic mixtures. So I got a question saying, if we asked a question like this, would you want us to include stereochemistry? There is no stereochemistry in these radical questions because they are racemic. So you can draw it, but then you have to draw both, because if you draw only one, you'd be kind of wrong. So termination, we've got some options. We can have the two bromine radicals come together. Yes. So Mari mass, isn't the OO bond in benzoyl peroxide weaker than HBr? Yes, but there's very, very little of it. So it's not really there in any kind of amount. Whereas there's a lot of the HBr. Yes, if there was more, that would be used. And you would generate more of those initial radicals. So we can do that. This is where people get confused, and I can't emphasize this enough because I promise that there's going to be somebody who watches this and goes, yeah, I get all this, and then tells me that the products of the reaction are the termination products. And that's wrong. These are not the products. And I'm going to actually write that in a second, writing these are not the products. And I'll do it in a different color so that we're all clear that these are not the products. I'm just going to move where that is because the arrow's in the way. They are kind of fun to draw, though, because you get these weird sticky things. And so, again, this comes from the idea that we're used to the last thing we're drawing being the product. The last thing we're drawing are the termination steps. They are not the products of the reaction. The products of the reaction are what comes from propagation. Propagation is where the products are made. I'm out of ways to say that. I have used all my words. Yeah. So Kevin asked a really good question. Would polymerization only occur? You know what? There's always three. You write the three. Will polymerization occur only if benzoyl peroxide was to be reacted alone with the alkene? Absolutely. If there was no HBr present, you would polymerize because the weakest bond available then would be the double bond. So the radical you generate would attack the double bond. There's very little phenyl radical around. So Jafer asked, Michaela asked, what about the phenyl radical? Does it belong in termination? No, because there's you can put it in there, but there's hardly any of it in there. There's tiny amounts, so it's kind of negligible. And what it does generally is it reacts really quickly with HBr to give you the Br radical. So on the top here, what would you write? You would write. I love that question, and I had forgotten to do it. You would write that. That is the product. It is the product of it's the propagation product. That is it. There's one product from reaction. Benzoyl peroxide would be part of the product if you had a ton of benzoyl peroxide. It never really is. I'm sure somebody has done that, but I don't know why you would. Oh, I'm not sure why there's a carbon there. Where'd that carbon come from? I magically made a carbon appear. That carbon hasn't been there at any other point. I just randomly started drawing a new carbon. Thank you very, very much, Anita. And Bennett and Andrew, the carbon police. I appreciate it. That it was wrong. So thanks. I'm just it's been a long day. Okay. We're at 224. So I'm going to just highlight I'm going to upload this, and what you're going to see is a few other optional questions that you can take a look at. So the next one on here is using AIBN and BRBR to add to this double bond where we have a oxygen on here. This is when you have to be very careful about resonance. So I recommend you give this a go. We're going to take this up next class. We covered that last class earlier. It's a thing with cyanide and two nitrogens. It's on the slides from last that are been uploaded. Sorry. The full name. I'd have to look up what the name is. I can't remember what the name is. I just call it AIBN in my head. It's bisnitrile, but Google it. I don't think anything else has AIBN as an. Oh, I'm sure there's some Swiss organization that talks about energy or something that's called AIBN. We're going to talk about this reaction here. What happens here? Yes, what Victoria said. And if that helps you at all, awesome. It doesn't help me at all. I'm bad at names, so I don't think they matter very much because I'm not good at them. And the last thing we're going to try and take up next class, and this is the real, this is what I really want to be spending the last two classes doing, is solving things like this, which is how do we take the molecule from the left and go to the molecule on the right? We have all the chemistry we need to do that, and we're going to talk about how we can think about things from two different directions at the same time to try and figure out how we can make things that we want. Yeah, thank you, Victoria. So that's where I'm gonna upload these so you can take a look at these questions, and if you want, you can sort of take a crack at them. And if not, we are going to take them up next class. And we will get some chances to do some PTs with this one, so we'll make sure that we're all clear on that too. Okay. I hope you have a really good rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you Friday. Bye.